Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, it is Thursday, January 13th, 2022, time for the regular meeting of the Wenatchee City Council. We've just got out of executive session, and we are into regular session. As we always start, we'll start with the pledge to our flag. So, Councilmember Rojan Astil, would you like to lead us in the pledge? Stand it up, here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for roll call this evening, we have 6 council members with us today. Councilmember Huffaker is on vacation. I spoke to him today, and he will not be calling in. Our first item on the agenda tonight is our consent items, which includes approving the agenda with a small change, vouchers and minutes from our previous meetings, and to adopt Resolution 2022-02 designating voting members to various city, community boards, councils, and organizations. I entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we approve the consent items for this evening. This would include the agenda for this evening with the following addition, that the emergency ordinance number 2022-02 amending Wenatchee City Code 7.24 related to snow and ice removal from sidewalks become agenda item A, and all subsequent items be renumbered accordingly. That we approve the vouchers and the minutes from previous meetings, and that we adopt resolution number 2022-02 designating voting representatives on behalf of the city to various community boards, councils, and organizations.
Motion, second? Okay. Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Hornby to adopt this evening's consent items, including the agenda with a note as item A being to consider ordinance number 2022-02 amending WCC 7.24 related to snow and ice removal from sidewalks, and all other items be changed in accordance with that. And for adoption of the vouchers and minutes from the previous meetings, and to approve resolution number 2022.02 designating voting representatives on behalf of the city to various community boards, councils, and organizations. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Citizen comment. This is a time we would ask any members of the audience who wish to address the city council on something that's either on today's agenda or not. If you would like to, please come up to the microphones, give us your name and address for the record, and we'll give you about 3 minutes. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Chelsea Mahuika, and I live at 3524 Diana Way in Wenatchee. And I am here today. I came at the last minute when I found out you were having a meeting, but I wanted to make you aware that your Parks and Recs department has chosen not to do rec basketball this year. And that was a decision that they made in the fall, and I contacted them about that and asked them why they were not doing that, because I was aware that City of Seattle, Spokane, Tri-Cities, everyone else was doing rec basketball, and rec basketball is such an important part of our community. My husband has coached all of our kids' rec sports for many years. It's a chance for minorities, low-income students to play a sport that they otherwise would not have access to. And when I called the Parks and Rec department to ask them why they were making that decision, they said, and I said, you know, Eastmont is considering it, and Eastmont is doing theirs right now. They said, we have a higher safety standard than Eastmont Parks and Recs, which I don't believe is true. I think it was an easier option, but not the correct option. And I'm very disappointed that our taxpayer dollars have not gone towards that program for yet another year. I asked, well, what are you offering for people right now? They said, well, there's virtual options. Well, we know that that's not a compensation for rec basketball. And so I know that we're now in January, but this is when Eastmont has decided to do theirs. Normally it happens October, November, December. They decided to do a delayed right now, and I think that's awesome. But my children aren't able to play in that because it's full, and obviously designed for Eastmont residents. So,
are the school districts even accepting outside people? I know
yes, they are.
They are
So,
starting to do that. That's new, because as of a couple months ago, they weren't. Volleyball couldn't play in there, but
absolutely. So my children do play AAU basketball.
Okay.
And
so they're
so
starting to allow them in.
Yep. every gym is full every night with sports. So it's not a matter of the schools not allowing them in, it's a matter of, so when I did call the mayor's office, they said, well, we weren't aware of that decision,
Right.
which is very concerning, that a decision of that magnitude was made without consulting the city. So I think it's not too late to revisit the option to do rec basketball. We're still in the same school year. It's for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. And so, that's 2 years, the 4th and 5th graders that have not had the opportunity to play basketball. We have a mental health crisis, a physical health crisis with our students from being out of school for so long, not being able to play athletics. I would say Wenatchee was far behind every other city in the state as far as youth athletics because of safety standards.
So I'll check with our parks people and see what the decision was, why they made the decision they made. I don't micromanage them. That isn't necessarily something that will come to my office. So
Yeah.
I let our department heads run their departments, but I'll check with our parks people and see the reason why. I know we've just found out in the last couple of days that Special Olympics is not coming this year as well due to COVID. And so again, that's a different issue, but
A
I'm just
different
saying.
issue. And they did tell me that they would be doing Special Olympics. They said, we will still be doing Special Olympics.
Well,
So
that
I'm-
just got canceled earlier this week.
And
so.
the school, I spoke at the school board meeting because the school canceled unified basketball. So we're discriminating against our special needs students, our minority
My
students. and
brother
our
used to
low-income
coach the unified stuff. He loved it, yeah.
Yeah, so I have filed a formal discrimination complaint today with the school district, and I don't want to do that against the city.
All right,
So,
thanks,
thank
Chelsea,
you.
appreciate it. Anybody else wish to address the council on something that's either on today's items or not? See no other folks. We will move into our agenda items. The first item is agenda item A, which is regarding amending Wenatchee City Code 7.24 related to snow and ice removal from sidewalks. And I think we're going to get a little presentation from Aaron Kelly first. He'll get you updated on what's been going on at the city on that, and then he and Rob will present regarding this particular ordinance. So just for the council members, obviously last Thursday morning, when I woke up a little bit after 5, I went to go plow my driveway and couldn't get to my car. So when I came in, I had messages from Rob and Laura and others, and we immediately decided to close city services for that Thursday. And then I'm going to have to ask for forgiveness versus permission. We authorized Aaron and his staff to hire outside contractors to remove the berms up and down Chelan, Mission, Wenatchee Avenue, and other places. So I think Aaron's going to get you a quick update on what we've done so far, and then we'll let Rob and Steve Smith talk about the emergency ordinance. So, gentlemen?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Aaron Kelly, Public Works Operations Manager, here with the snow update, snow removal update. Just to kind of start it off, our typical snowfall practices are to divide the city into 2 priorities. Priority 1 consists of primarily our main arterials and collectors, and priority 2 are residential streets and alleys. The goal in a typical year is to be able to have everything plowed within 24 to 36 hours and to be able to basically have the city all opened up. Thursday morning, of course, was not typical, and as you can see from the picture, this is one of our supervisors, and this is how, when they showed up to work, that all the trucks were still buried, trying to be able to get out. Opening that day, we were trying to basically starting to open up a minimum of 2 lanes on our arterials and collector streets. And then we focused really on access for emergency responders. The hospital we made sure was opened up, the PD, the fire department, ambulance services. Then by Thursday midday, we started opening up single lanes to all the residential streets for basically for emergency access. And then we did do a single, or we're attempting to do a single pass through at least every alley. That kind of bled into Friday, or Thursday night into Friday. Crews also continue to clean up residential streets, plow alleys, and remove the berms throughout the city. Since the snow started, though, on Wednesday night into Thursday morning, we've had crews on 24 hours a day, basically cleaning up and removing the snow berms and snow. We've also rented additional equipment and have hired contractors to help remove the snow. We have and we continue to remove snow from cul-de-sacs, dead-end streets, and alleys. Over the last week, we also started removing snow from turn lanes, and the Berms from Wenatchee Avenue, Chelan, Mission, and segments of Miller. So this is a picture of our South Yard and decant facility.
Wow.
This is normally holds our snow removal. Everything that we haul off during a normal year, we fill this up. And as you can see, it's already full. It was full by like Saturday afternoon. So from that point forward, we started looking for other alternatives. We started filling up part of the DOT property. We luckily also were able to get an additional vacant lot up off of Springwater, and we're able to start using that. This is just a picture of as they were clearing it for use. Of course, needed to scrape all the snow off that fell on it. And then the snow berms. As you guys have noticed, we've removed a majority of those throughout the city. Each car length, if you take a look at one of those snow berms, is basically a 10-yard dump truck. Wow. The typical city block is 55 loads in that city block. We estimate we've hauled over 14,000 loads so far. And this is also a quick little video that I'll try to play. It's basically just a quick one. This is how quickly, when we're using the snow blower to load them, how quickly it loads. Hopefully it's not too loud either. Or maybe there is no sound, but. There was, but that's okay. It's just the sound of the truck and the blower. So approximately, it takes us about 25 seconds to load them. We had, at one point, we had 16 trucks back to back, and we were just heating them up. So you can see how we went through 14,000 loads.
Yeah.
And are filling everything up, but that's just also gives you a picture of how much snow we've had on the ground trying to pick up. By no means are we perfect yet. We've got a long ways to be able to go. Got continued efforts. Crews will continue to widen streets where we can. I know one of the concerns is as we widen them that we start to bury people that have already dug out their driveways multiple times. So we're trying to be cognizant as we do that to try to pick that up as well. We clean areas that are kind of bottlenecking from 2 lanes down to 1 lane all of a sudden. So we're trying to be able to clean that up still. Removing from some turn lanes. We've already cleared out most of the left-hand turn lanes, but it's the right-hand turn lanes now that, like we just addressed one up by the high school last night. And then parking areas. So we've got quite a bit of different parking areas that of course cars are parked that we can't clean up, and we'll continue to try to be able to widen those up as cars leave. And then also the removal of ice, especially when we had those berms up. I'm sure you guys seen the ice built up where the wheels were running.
Yeah.
So we're trying to remove those as well. That's actually all I've got for you right now, but we're...
Any idea how much we spent with Sullen and Pipkin and the crews and removing the berms?
approximately 200,000 this far. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, well, it snowed Thursday. I don't know if it was Friday night. It was in downtown Wenatchee, and I think you had most of downtown Wenatchee already basically handled, and where people could get in and out of businesses, I think, pretty easily. So, and I saw them working Saturday night too. So, sounds like the outside crews just kept right on going.
Correct. Yep. So working, again, 24 hours a day, and we try to, as soon as after we opened everything up for emergency crews, then we started going back through and cleaning everything up to basically make the city back open.
So for the crews that are doing that, they're working 12-hour shifts, and they haven't had a day off in a
7
week
days.
and a half
Yep.
or so. So are they going to get some time off this weekend?
So that's what we're hoping. We're assessing what we need to be able to do. I know that there was some work still down on Columbia that we wanted to do before they call it a weekend, but we're hoping to be able to get them a day or two off, and then they would need to get back and basically continue to clean up.
Well, tell Andy and the crew they've done a remarkable job, and we haven't seen snow like this. I think we've seen the depth of snow, just not that quickly. And so
So-
Yeah.
they've really done a remarkable job of getting things open.
Aaron, your staff is doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
These are really, truly difficult
And
times.
I want to give credit because, the street crew is running the night, and I know that that's probably the toughest, so I want to recognize them for sure. And then our collections and water crew is working throughout the day, again, another 12-hour shift to be able to do this, so they're the ones that make it happen.
Yeah. The big grader was sort of stuck in front of my house, and that guy turned it sideways. he had these wheels going this way, and he'd make a spot so his tires could, it's just like fascinated how he was able to do that. Yeah. They're pretty talented folks.
Yep.
Any questions for Aaron while we have him here? So at some point, we'll get a budget amendment in through the Finance Committee and back for this additional work, but needed to get done, needed to get us open. All right, sidewalks, Mr. Jammerman.
I just wanted to echo, again, thanks to Aaron and all the crew. And some of you may recall, I think it was 2 years ago, we came to, in our budget, we asked for a new snow blower.
Right.
And our other one was aging out, and we bought that. And you know, some winters, like last winter, we didn't use it as much, but we're certainly glad we have that equipment now. And so you know, you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. So thank you for your financial support of the street department, because they have to deal with this. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to sidewalks. So we're here before you tonight, as was read into the record earlier. There's a motion for ordinance number 2022-02, amending WCC 7.24 related to snow and ice removal from sidewalks. The history or backstory on this is that, as you know, it is a long time since the 1960s city requirement that residents have to remove snow from their sidewalk adjacent to their property. And we gave people some grace, and we started getting calls earlier this week that sidewalks, especially in high pedestrian areas near schools, were not being cleared. And got the team together, talked about how we could move forward with this. Our current code enforcement policy or a procedure would take anywhere from 1 to 2 months before we'd actually be able to get action because of the way it's set up. And so we really needed a way to be able to require people to remove it right now, or allow the city to go in there and then seek reimbursement. So that was the goal of this emergency ordinance. I talked to the mayor, and he was supportive of moving forward with this. And so we worked with Steve all day yesterday, drafting this ordinance to allow for the city to give notice 24 hours. And if they don't respond, then the city can hire a contractor to come in and clear that sidewalk. And then after the winter period is over, then we would then file an assessment to seek reimbursement. Today we brought a group of people, probably about 20 staff together. We went out, we identified 2 blocks outside the elementary schools was our first wave, because that's where we were getting the complaints. Where there was 1,800 properties that were on these collector and arterial streets that we wanted to go look at. And after the team got back today, they delivered about 100 letters. So of the 1,800, you have a good compliance rate, and we had about 100 people that got the letters. So we'll circle back tomorrow. If you choose to approve this tonight, we'll circle back tomorrow, see who's complied, and if those that haven't complied, then Aaron will begin working on getting a contractor in to clean those areas. Did I leave anything out that you would like to add? Steve set up an assessment. We have to have a hearing on that.
What we hand out to the people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So today also, when they handed them out, they handed out a list of contractors that they could hire and volunteers to be able to also, if they can.
For the elderly.
Yep.
So we talked to staff about being empathetic. This is just, we don't want to go do this, right? We want people to do that. So and we have given a week's grace, but we need to have the availability to take quick actions. Any questions?
Yeah, I've heard of some kids like at Newberry School where you couldn't, when they were walking home, you couldn't walk on the sidewalk. So you'd walk out in the street, but then you'd slide over by the berm where that little thin layer of ice is, right? And that's where the kids are walking. And there's cars just, one kid slips and falls. I mean, it's like, you can't have that expectation out of public safety for your grade school children walking in those sorts of conditions. If it's only a couple of sidewalks that need to be cleared to get the whole lane to go, then we need to have a mechanism for making that happen.
Yeah.
Well, I like how the staff put together a mechanism or something that'll help people with the contractors or the volunteer list. Mm-hmm. And that's something that needs to be recognized when this is all done, the volunteer list and maybe even the contractors of how they help the community within the 2 miles of the safety for the schools.
Yeah, and Ferry Street's been a perennial problem for 20 years. And there's a lot of students that walk from the south end neighborhoods. And I realize there's a lot of probably rentals there. Just, they're out in the street.
Yeah, so I think with this, we'll start with around the schools and get that sort of as our first run. Then I think we'll expand it to some degree. I think there's some stuff in downtown that needs to be that we communicate with, and then if they don't, I've heard got some emails about some businesses. I haven't gone out to look at them specifically, but I think we'll continue to do this for a period of time until it's pretty clear that we've got a fairly significant compliance rate on this.
I appreciate this, not only in some of the neighborhoods close to where I live, not clearing their sidewalk, but they're piling it 5 and 6 feet high and blocking the entire sidewalk. You have a mountain in front of you. You have to walk out in the street and around. So those kind of compliance issues, I think. So, yeah.
This is kind of a summary procedure too, because obviously you have a acute problem when the snow falls like this and you can't wait around for a month. So we just have to act. So we're giving them notice, but then we also have to give them the right to a hearing before we assess the property. And so we set that up so that it would go in front of the hearing examiner instead of you guys. We'd have the option to bring it back here, but
No, hearing examiner.
Hearing examiner's good, yeah.
yeah, we're thinking we don't want to bring it back. So it'll go to the hearing examiner.
Okay.
Hopefully, it'd go in a group. So let's say we had 100 properties, it would just, an assessment roll would go in front of the hearing examiner. That'd be a person's opportunity to come in and check. And the hearing examiner would make a decision. And once we got a ruling, it would be an assessment. And then we can take different steps to try to collect.
Well, again, I'm impressed of how you guys put this together so quickly. So I'm going to make a motion for the city council to adopt ordinance number 2022-02, amending WCC 7.24 related to snow and ice removal from sidewalks.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Poyer, second by Councilmember Cuevas to adopt ordinance 2022-02, amending Wenatchee City Code 7.24 related to snow and ice removal from sidewalks. Any discussion? Any comments? They started this process yesterday morning. I just want you to know how fast that one went. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, Steve, for working on this.
Sure.
All right, so we've got Lincoln Park Construction Contract Award. We got a good bid from one of our local contractors, so Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, Dave Erickson, Parks and Recreation Director for the city. This evening, we're requesting the council authorize the mayor to sign a standard construction agreement with KRCI, the amount of $2,580,045.50. And this is for the Lincoln Park construction project. So this one we've covered at multiple council meetings over the last 10 years as the project has been developed. This kind of gets us down to the last big elements of the project. Through this construction contract, you'll see new restrooms, BMX pump park, splash pad, new play equipment, picnic shelter, full-size soccer, lacrosse field, some ADA improvements, a new stage, and some walkway improvements, as well as striping the parking lots, which hasn't been done. We did take this out to bid last September through December, received, I think, 3 or 4 good competitive bids that were grouped right next to each other. So we're excited to get this one to the finish line and hopefully get this under construction sometime as soon as the snow decides to leave. With that, I'd try to answer any questions you might have. We did talk about this at Finance Committee as well.
So I think the only comment I would have, and we talked about the Finance Committee to some degree, certain portions of this are already in our 2022 budget. There's a little bit over $500,000 of ARP funding that is, in essence, general fund funding that sort of completes the project. And our general fund reserves are doing very, very well. And so I think it makes sense to try to get this done, one, while we have the money in the project and we got a good quality bid. So as always, we like to use other funds where we can, but in this instance, the general fund's picking up a fairly significant portion of the of the remaining portions of the park. But, you know, that park is 30 years old, and every 30 years it needs an update. But maybe it's 40 years old. I don't know how old it is.
1969.
Ooh, well, that's, 50, 51, 52, yeah.
And I could mention that we do have 6 grants, state, federal, county grants that we've secured for this project as well, and 3 pretty significant donations as well. So we're trying to maximize as many of those outside funding sources that we could actually secure for it.
So ARP funding means what, and what can you use it on? Obviously, you can use it on this. But
Brad, do you want to talk about ARP funding quickly? Councilmember Poyer had a question. Do you want to come up and give a quick update on what's going on with that?
curious on what you can use it on, obviously, for this.
Good evening, Brad Posenjack, Finance Director. So the ARP funding is the American Recovery Plan Act, the federal funds that were approved. The city is going to end up with $6 million. We received $3 million this year. We'll receive $3 million next year. They had interim rules that we were operating under, and there's specific things that can be used for certain utility projects, mostly things that respond to the COVID pandemic are some of the basic factors. But they also want to spur economic recovery and provide resources for low-income communities. So the ARP interim rules were very specific, and there was some revenue replacement rules that could be used so that the city could use it to fill holes in their revenue that we've experienced over the past couple years. And so the rules were very complicated and complex. And this past week, they have now since released their final rules. And their final rules have basically allowed the city to use all $6 million for revenue replacement for the provision of government services, is what it says. There are some cities, larger cities, are probably getting $60, $100 million in funds, and so it's limited to their first $10 million. For us, the total we're getting is $6 million, so all $6 million can really be used for general government services. So the easiest way to administer these funds is going to be to use them in the general fund, pull them into the general fund for the provision of government services, and then use them for things like Lincoln Park. And I think we'll be talking about the pool in a minute. And there's several different projects that are under the spirit of what the ARP funds want. However, it will make it much, much easier for us to document, to support, and to justify getting these funds out, putting parks in lower income areas, and being able to get contractors working and doing things to help the recovery. So it's just become much more flexible in the past week than over the past 9 months as we've been kind of watching to figure out what we can use these funds for.
Well, it sounds like we're using the funds for what was supposed to happen. So that helps me out tremendously.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brad? Any other questions for Brad or Dave? Otherwise, the motion is to basically authorize me to sign a contract with KRCI, and they can start construction in the spring and be done by the fall?
Halloween is kind of the target.
Okay.
Scary.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the city council to authorize the mayor to sign a standard construction agreement with KRCI in the amount of $2,580,045.50 for the construction on the Lincoln Park project.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hornby, second by Councilmember Cuevas, to authorize the mayor to sign a standard construction agreement with KRCI in the amount of $2,580,045.50 for the construction of the Lincoln Park project. Discussion?
I'm excited about it. It's a statement.
Me too.
All right.
It's needed.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, David.
You bet.
And swimming pool.
Okay, so our next item is actually we're requesting that the mayor be authorized to accept and sign a state youth athletic facilities program grant in the amount of $350,000 for the pool. And I have a PowerPoint that I thought I'd go over some of the details of this for background. So pool liner project, a little on the pool itself, built in 1965. It's been renovated several times. In 1972, they replaced the gutters on the pool and did a completely different gutter system. 1996, the pool liner was replaced. And in the middle, we've done things like resurfacing the deck a couple of years ago, replaced the filters in 2011, I think it was, the circulation pump, as well as bringing other things up to code. 2008, we had an outside aquatic organization come in and do a analysis of the pool to tell us what we needed to do to keep it operating up to standard and all that good stuff. And we've actually accomplished almost all of those items on the list. There's just a few left. A couple of them are tied in with the Pioneer Park master plan, like adding sidewalks along Fuller Street, things like that. But we're getting close. Two of the items that are left, though, that we'll talk about here, is fixing and repairing pool leaks. So back in 2007, Public Works did a leak assessment on the pool and found that it was losing about 77 gallons of water a minute. That hasn't improved because it's under the pool somewhere. The other thing is the pool plaster liner. So the pool itself is a concrete shell with a plaster inlay in it. It used to be fiberglass, but in '96 they replaced it to this plaster system. Those typically last about 10 years. Ours is about 25 years old. So we've really gotten good life out of it. So really those are the two things. So kind of jumping ahead now a little bit on the pool liner project, there's areas in the pool itself where you can actually see the concrete shell through the pool itself, through the plaster. Areas where the plaster has delamification, sorry, it's where it separates from the concrete, and just other areas where the paint is about the only thing holding it together. So we applied for grants in 2012, 2016, weren't successful. Grant agencies tend not like renovation or repair projects. Those aren't real sexy. But we tried again. February 2020, City Council authorized us to apply for another state grant for the project. And in 2021, then in September, we were awarded $350,000 for the project, but we haven't accepted the grant yet. So last fall, before we accepted the grant, we wanted to take a look at the leak to make sure that we weren't going to fix a nice liner over the top and still have leak issues below it. So one of the challenges is that there's no record drawings of the pool plumbing system itself. So we went out with the facilities department and they did an analysis of the pool. So if you look at the kind of the plan view, you can kind of see this is the pool itself, this kind of backwards L or sideways L. Each of these little green spots is one of these water inlets here. So the water comes into the pool that from the recirculate, comes through the filters and goes back up through there. The water itself flows down through those pipes. It actually drains down kind of this direction toward the deep end. So to try to determine where the leak was, they used these bladders and put those in each one of these little inlets, filled it up so the water couldn't go anywhere. And then they started at the low end and worked their way up the pool, and they'd fill up to that first level. And if that stayed, if the next hole held water, they knew that they didn't really have a fast leak there. So then they moved up to the next one, and so on and so on and so on, all the way up to the shallow end where we got to this point right here at the end. They had a hose in this red one right here, full blast running in there, and it didn't fill up. Eventually it did fill up enough, so they pulled the hose out, and then the water just kind of sounded, it just sucked down, just went and gone. So we know we have a big leak there. So we have a short-term immediate fix that we're planning on doing this March when we get the pool ready for the season. We drain the pool down every year and we get it ready. And that's to go down to this next kind of green spot right here, dig down to the bottom through the bottom of the pool, cut and cap the pipe right there. That isolates that major leak. from the rest of the circulation system. Now, that's not saying that there couldn't be other leaks in there, but at least it takes that giant one out. Then we'll operate this year, hope for the best, cross our fingers that we can still hold water in the pool and keep going. So that's the immediate one. And I'll go over schedule and things like this a little bit in a minute. Then we have what's called kind of the short-term fix. Now this one, we accept the grant. We get do a request for qualifications, get an engineering firm on board that specializes in pool plumbing and pool construction. We do engineering documents. This spring, when the pool is lowered down, they would come in and do their assessment when the pool is empty. And then develop the engineering documents to go out for construction and bid to replace the under the pool plumbing system, all those green and red dots there, replace that system and then sleeve the line from the pool, the supply line from the pool to the filter area over here. Because that goes under the pool deck and we don't want to tear up the brand new pool deck that was put in just a couple years ago. The plan is to sleeve it with like what they did at Parkside with a PVC one that ran under the building. Best case scenario, then construction documents are done, cost estimates are updated. We bring the cost estimates back before we go to bid the project in late summer, do construction after the pool closes for the year, August through October, and then we're good to go the following season. And then there's the longer term fix, and this is the longer term plan. This is implementing the capital facilities plan for Pioneer Park, which calls for moving the pool to the other side of the park, doing a zero depth water playground area, water slides, all that stuff, as well as a competition pool. This kind of came out of the master plan process that was done for Pioneer Park. That's the longer term. So schedule and estimated costs. So the immediate fix, this year, we should be able to handle it. Talking to facilities just out of our regular budget, they should be able to just handle that. And then you get into the short-term one, which kind of goes back to this grant again. At this level of design, we think it's going to be about $888,000 for the liner and the plumbing portion of it. Of that $888,000, $350,000 would be covered by that state grant, so we would have to cover the rest. And there you can see kind of the schedule that we talked about. And then that longer term planning level estimate, that's about an $8 million project. We'd say in about 5 to 6 years, start the process to design a new facility, locate the site if we need to, fundraising, capital campaign. If it has to be a ballot measure, you get that committee together and approach that with the idea that construction potentially then would be ready to go in 10 to 15 years potentially so the pool would be operational then when these improvements have reached the end of their lifespan. So with that, I'm requesting that we accept the $350,000 grant for the pool. If we don't accept the grant, then it will be difficult to get that grant again in the future.
So we talked about this at finance for quite a little while today, and I'm looking at this from two different perspectives. I think the plan, I think David thinks this might be 10 years, right? You think this will get us 10 years, buy us 10 years, Dave?
I tend to, well, if we take care of it like the last one, it could be 25. But
okay, well, let's assume it's 10.
10
yeah.
on the low end.
So, we're spending just south of $1 million, some of it state money, and probably the right thing to do in the short term, but long term, and we tried this 8 or 9 years ago and it didn't really go anywhere, which is our city ready for an aquatic center, not unlike Moses Lake, Ephrata, other places. This is a regional asset. It is enjoyed by folks from East Wenatchee and unincorporated Chelan County and other places around, yet the city of Wenatchee taxpayer is responsible for not only its annual loss to operate, which is $100,000 to $150,000 a year, but now every so often $1 million in capital for an asset that's, in my view, a regional asset. And so what I would like to see us do is approve this, hope it works, and then start meeting with our friends and neighbors and determine whether or not a regional aquatic center is something that this community can, support with tax dollars from the region. For me, it would be sort of the school boundaries of East Wenatchee, which already has an Eastmont Metropolitan Parks District, which is the school boundaries on that side, and do something on this side that looks like the school boundaries of the Wenatchee School District, and get those taxpayers together and do a property tax assessment and go. Any idea what an aquatic center costs these days?
It's probably in the, well, at that time it was 4 to 5 million, but
So
I'm thinking
15
it's
to
going to be
20?
5 to, probably 8 at a minimum. Yeah, 8 to 10,
Okay.
depending on the scope.
Yeah. And these things get difficult because, when you look back at the, Town Toyota Center and all the struggles we had, and, one of the things that got the hockey folks excited is when, we said, well, the city's not putting any more money in this, so it's going to sit empty unless the taxpayers figure out how to bail it out. And it's exactly what happened. The hockey folks all got together and said, no, we need to support this building. And lo and behold, they got some taxes raised and off it goes. And to some degree, I think until there isn't a pool, who knows? But I think we need to start having that conversation and a commitment from the city that says, this is about it for us. If it's already, I'm 58, so it's 56 years old. If you get 10 more years out of it, 66 years old, it's time for something new at some point.
Mhm.
But I'm in support of doing this as much as I sort of wish there was a more regional approach to even this problem. Council members, any thoughts?
I like your thinking, and in fact, right now, the YMCA has a survey out for selected individuals, and I commented on there that for the pool part, that perhaps they needed to look, I don't know how you do it with membership and how you do it with public funds, but maybe looking at, how many swimming pools do we really need?
Right. Yep.
And
And I think, and the hard thing for, again, this is, I'll tell you both sides, the Y's got a pool, right? East Wenatchee Metropolitan Parks District has these are indoor pools, and then the school district has an indoor pool. And then my kids learn to swim at the swim and tennis club. And there's other pools that people can swim in. But if you talk to those connoisseurs of swimming pools, there's 2 50-meter outdoor pools in our state, Wenatchee and Walla Walla. And for the swim meets, the 50-meter outdoor pool is the bomb diggity. It's the thing. And so if we were, the Y, if they build one and they're talking about a new facility, it would be just a 25-meter indoor pool, sort of not unlike what they have now, which is nice, and maybe that's enough. But at some point, I think the community needs to chime in as to what it is that they want us to continue to pay for. And at some point, that decision gets really hard for whatever city council people are sitting here when you say, you know what, we're done taking care of the pool, and this needs to be a regional approach if it's going to work. Because you got, 35,000 citizens in the city of Wenatchee, and you got 80,000 in the bowl here, but only 35,000 of them are helping pay for this. And so I think this is the right thing to do, but I think we need to update that conversation with our friends across the river and other places. And who knows what we're missing? I think Moses Lake does very well on their aquatic center. I think people come from a long ways away to spend their day there.
It does attract not only overnight stays, but it attracts for swim meets and stuff like that. But, people coming in for the day to use the pool as well. And
Yeah. Listen, if an aquatic center was built with another brand new 50-meter outdoor pool and other stuff associated with it, if that's what the community wants, good for us. That's, it's almost like the YMCA, every 100 years or so you need a new one, right? Because that building's 110 years old or something, right? So, but I'm okay with this. It's just, we need to keep the conversation going. All right, questions for David?
so David, and I have absolutely no knowledge about this stuff, but with this leak going on down there, is there a potential for a sinkhole or anything under there? Could that be a problem?
The water has to go somewhere. So, yeah, actually,
So we go in and we do this temporary fix. Is that going to take care of that potential problem?
no, the temporary fix will just stop kind of where we think it's leaking right now anyway, the big leak. When you go into that next step one, that's when we actually take that bottom of the pool out. And so you'll be able to have a better idea where that's, you know, if there's a giant cavern under there, we need to
Well-
sell tickets too. But, yeah.
Yeah.
But your budget includes, if the engineers come up with a number of having to replace the piping, that your estimates at this point are they could dig up the pipes and repipe it for a majority of the pool before we put the liner back in?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so we talked with facilities when they were doing the assessment, and they thought it would be about 200,000 based on their experience on the piping portion of the pool. And previous to that, we had the liner already budgeted.
Right.
At that time, anyway, the cost estimate from comparable pools that had just done that project. But
So,
we'll get an updated cost estimate through the engineering process as well. So then before we even go out to bid or anything, we'll have a better number.
and as some of the council members may remember, we did ask the PUD through their public power benefit program if they would be willing to participate in this. I met with Kirk Hudson, the new general manager, last Friday, and he told me that he did not believe this would score very well, so that we should not plan on any PUD money to go into this. So this is going to be a city general fund event. And again, our reserves are great, so this is one that, again, is certainly reasonable with the money we have in our reserve accounts.
Well, to me, it's a job that has to be done, and the problem's only going to get worse, and the
Yep.
costs are only going to go up. So we have the grant money now. It seems like we should be accepting that money and moving forward with this.
What happens, you accept the grant money, and it comes back that they want $3 million to do this. Do we have to give them grant money back? How does that work?
Yeah, so anytime we accept grants, or at least from my standpoint anyway, these are reimbursement grants, the state ones that we get. So I'm always cautious about kind of holding on to that before we have to ask for it. Well, before we get reimbursed. So we don't have to reimburse the state if something like that comes up. And we've kind of done that with the Lincoln Park project. On a couple of the grants, we've really held back on it, waiting to make sure that we had a good construction contract. So I would do the same thing with this, where we'll have some engineering cost, but I think we would have to kind of do that either way. So we would use our general fund piece for that. And then once it comes time for the actual construction and we know what those costs are going to be in a more firm fashion, then we would get reimbursed through the grant.
So I'm not going to be fair. It's not a fair question to you right now, but it's like, what do you think it costs to determine if this is going to work for 888?
Yeah, so we have in the budget $83,000 for engineering, and that's for engineering and construction management. So I would guess it'll be about half of that for the actual engineering survey.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's well worth it.
Yeah, and the state is anxious for us to accept it. They've been pushing Dave pretty hard. When are you going to accept the grant? When are you going to accept the grant? Because if we don't, they're going to give it to somebody else. So I think this is, and we did spend a little time, we talked about this in October, and we said, no, we're not accepting it until Dave's and the maintenance crews could get in and come back with another sort of plan, which is what we've seen in front of us. So we've delayed this about as long as we can. All right, with that, I'd accept a motion if we had one.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to accept the State of Washington Recreation Conservation Office Youth Athletic Facilities Program grant in the amount of $350,000 for the Wenatchee City Pool Renovation Project 20-1238D and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second?
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember, I've been struggling with this, Rojan.
Oh, perfect.
Hey, how'd I do?
Very nice.
To accept the State of Washington Recreation Conservation Office Youth Athletic Facility Program grant in the amount of $350,000 for the Wenatchee City Pool Renovation Project 20-1238D and authorize the mayor's signature. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
And
you.
finally, David, an appointment to the Parks Commission.
Oh, I've got two more.
Oh, I know you did. Sorry. Two
Yeah,
more.
sorry.
Well, 1.5. I got Laura on the next one.
1.5.
All right.
Yeah, so the Arts Rec and Park Commission has a vacancy, and we lost Marlon Peterson. He moved into a tiny home and is traveling around the country. He was our resident artist on the commission. Casey Koski, who is an artist that we've worked with several times on a variety of different things, everything from painting a mural on the old restrooms at Pioneer Park to doing the designs on the bottom of the wading pools. She has applied and would like to serve, and we'd be happy and excited to have her on the commission. And so we're requesting approval of Resolution 2022-03 for her appointment.
All right, any questions for Dave? If not, I entertain a motion.
Your Honor, make a motion for the City Council to approve Resolution number 2022-03, appointing Casey Koski to position number 7 of the Arts, Recreation, and Parks Commission.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Harold, to adopt Resolution 2022-03, appointing Casey Koski to position 7 of the Arts, Recreation, and Parks Commission. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Riverfront Master Plan, Laura and Dave.
Okay, so we have a PowerPoint and a video for this one for you.
Okay.
So as just a reminder, I know we talked about this previously, several other council meetings. We have a final master plan for that park conceptual plan. So without we go through that, we won't go through the whole process, the 8-month-long process that was used to develop this, but super high level anyway. So this process started last April. A variety of public meetings, surveys, input, had some technical and community input groups. Through that process, developed 3 different design alternatives for the area. And we'll go through kind of the specifics as we go along, as well as looking at trail alignments and different options for the trail through this entire segment. I should mention that this segment basically goes from, south downstream of Pybus to, what would you call the north end? Riverside 9 area. And so what we'll do is we'll go through this whole thing here for you on the preferred alternative. So to orient you, the red circle will be the areas that we're going to be talking about as we kind of roll along here, starting on the upstream side, so right by Riverside. So some aerial photos kind of and some sketches of what it would look like. So I'll kind of skip over the trail piece because we're going to talk about that in more detail as we move along, but you'll notice some different trail alignments and trail construction methods as we move through. So on this north end, you have a improved beach area down to the river to provide some water access. You've got some additional pedestrian benches and amenities along the trail, and you'll see that throughout. Now we're going to keep walking kind of downstream of that, and where the trail split, this creates a new trail down lower to provide ADA accessibility to that beach area. The area up above on the left-hand side with the split rail fence, that's kind of where the trail is existing.
Okay.
Through this section, you would see vegetation reduced, replanted, so it opens things up so you can see through, gets rid of some of the noxious weeds, or not noxious weeds, but some of the less desirable plants that are in there. This is another example of kind of one of those sunshade bench areas along the trail. Again, a different style of fence, so it opens it up a bit more. And then in the background, you can see a picnic shelter, picnic pavilion area, and we'll kind of work our way down that way a little bit. You'll see it a little bit more in this one. So here's that picnic shelter that we just showed. They're right across from the apartments. Now we're going to keep moving down river to this next spot, just kind of to the north of 5th Street. This one you have to flip yourself around because we were just up here. And now we're on the other side. So for this particular picture, you have to flip yourself around. This is the existing restroom that's down there. The old ice arena kind of sits across the street here. You have the Columbia River on the right. This creates a splash pad down in this part of the park. This originally was planned to go down kind of by where the train is down there to create a train-themed splash area. But because of the landfill and underlying conditions down there, it was relocated up here, and those two elements were flip-flopped. So you have better stable soil in this area. I should also mention too that this is the high-level concept plan. Each one of these pieces will have further refinement engineering as we move along. Scared me there for a second, it came back. So just another shot of kind of what the splash pad feature would create. So it brings in some elements. It's a highly desired piece. When this one is put in, there would be the one at Rotary Park, this one kind of in the center of town, and then the one down at Lincoln Park. So we'll have a nice distribution of these water amenities for the community. Now we move down to the foot of 5th Street, kind of by the McQuaig building area. So flying above the river, looking back, this creates kind of seated bowl area for whatever businesses might be going on in that building to help bring that out into the space. You've got kind of a water feature that slopes down, kind of down the front. Looking at it from the river flying over, so this is that existing pump structure, creates a new boardwalk promenade out above, so you can fish off it, you can look at it, look at the river, you have some visual access out there. Back up in the middle here, you can see the stairway that would be created, and I'll cover this a little bit further as we move through this. Also create some trees, a grove of trees in this area to create some shade and some seating spots as we go through. So looking at it again, kind of from the downstream perspective, it separates out the traffic. What we found is that this is really a pinch point for both pedestrians and bicyclists. And so this separates the trail out in this area. So you have the kind of the through traffic on this lower route, and then the kind of the pedestrian oriented uses up in this plaza up above, tying in with the promenade. Again, just another kind of view, creates informal seating opportunities down the stairway, as well as you could potentially have performances or things like that down below. It really sets up nicely for that with the river in the background. Another shot kind of just on the north side of the building, looking toward the river. And then if you were out on that promenade looking back upriver, this is kind of what you would see. You'd be walking along the top, and you'd have the trail, kind of the through trail down below to separate that traffic out. And then to the south of the building, this is that new grove of trees that they would plant in here, creating some shaded seating areas. And then if you notice in the background, this is kind of that duck pond area with the landfill. Throughout this area, they would bring in some earthwork. So you create berms and mounds to not only help with the drainage issues that are there, but then it creates some seating opportunities. And because of the landfill underneath, it makes it difficult to get trees to actually establish very well. So this creates a good root zone then for that. So it also adds some additional walkways and trails through the desired area, locations. So now we're going to keep moving down. Here you have the treatment plant right here. This is the parking lot by the pedestrian bridge. This is the Hilton. And then you have the little train area. So now we're flying over the river, looking back toward the parking lot. You can see the parking lot here. The train is off in this section. You'll see this a little bit better in the other views as we move ahead, but this creates another river viewing opportunity with some seating. It brings another trail segment down below the viewing areas and keeps that pedestrian walkway piece up above. Here you kind of see ghosted here off to the bridge that goes across. Turning around from the parking lot and looking back, right now there's a giant kind of berm here with artwork and things, so it really blocks off the view to the river. So this would take that out, so then you have kind of an artwork plaza, as well as opening up the views toward the river then. So you come off the bridge, now you have a view out to the river, so you just know it's there. Also, you would have wayfinding, kiosk, informational signs, and the artwork in this area, there's quite a bit in that area, that would be relocated along the trail. Now you're flying above the train, the little train spot. So now this is that area which we mentioned would have been the splash pad. Now it's a train-themed play area for kids. We have a new kind of train depot waiting area for the train itself. The train would be a little bit reoriented, and it creates a new waiting spot as well as having restrooms that are available to the public. I think we have another one of the train, a little closer view, spot of the viewing platform. And then there was discussion about, having this more open for school groups and other organizations to come in and actually use it more regularly. Kind of walking down the trail, you now have the playground to your left. You're still looking downstream. And now we're moving down adjacent to Pybus, kind of the boat. This is the parking lot for the boat launch, the existing dock that's down there that was added a few years ago. But we're going to look at the boat called the boat basin area. So now we're flying above the river, looking back. Here's the boat launch over here on the far right. Pybus is right here. So this creates some, they called it whimsical seating. So it's kind of different kind of seating down along the river, a different sort of an additional boat or additional dock space for viewing the river. You'll see this a little bit better in the other spots, kind of a spot for food trucks by the picnic area. It redoes the wall here so it's not such a, so you don't feel like you're in a hole so much if you're docking your boat. And some other water access improvements we'll show here a little bit better in a sec. So now you're standing on the roof of Pybus looking out. You see the boat launch and then the different docks and then the food truck area. Down below the docks would be more boater friendly. Right now we've heard it's a little difficult to tie up sometimes down there. So it kind of creates a little bit better opportunity. And you kind of see softening that wall with plants. We'll cover this a bit more on the trail section, but pedestrian improvements, so it really draws more attention to the trail crossings and those pedestrian interactions. And then finally, further down south, as you're kind of exiting the park, this is, again, looking back toward the boat basin, but the trail, as well as the seating, the river access seating on the side. So this project's broken up into essentially 3 big phases. Each one is about 4 years. At this point on the planning level estimates, you can see the total cost of those phases. We're not asking you to approve the money or anything for these phases at this time. This is just kind of the planning level for the documents. So that
If one couldn't see those, could you tell me what they total up to?
No. Yeah, it's about $15 million for all 3 phases, wrapping up in the year 2036. Assuming everything goes smoothly, funding is in place and all of that. But the first phase, there's some early improvements, doing things like replacing the fence, cleaning the vegetation out. The first phase would be doing the picnic shelter up on the north end, the splash pad, the train play area. So things that are really going to benefit the community immediately are in that first phase. And that's the end of that slideshow. Tim? Yeah, video if you could with sound. Okay. Let's see. It is. There it is. Got it. So now this is about the trail.
Okay.
Uh-oh, made me a little.
Turn that up a little bit.
There's no sound.
And the conflicting
There it
needs
goes.
of those users, specifically between pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah.
To address
I'll pause it and start it again for you. I got it. we're wrestling over the cursor.
Currently, the trail in Riverfront Park cannot support the number of people using it and the conflicting needs of those users, specifically between pedestrians and cyclists. To address this, 6 trail designs have been identified to improve the trail system in Riverfront Park. In areas where the park width is narrow, like here at the North End Beach, the best solution is a split mode trail with striped dividers. Stripes on the trail delineate space for pedestrians and cyclists. Further, the cyclist trail is split into north and southbound lanes. In places where pedestrians cross over bike lanes, traffic calming measures are used. This bend in the trail forces cyclists to slow down and look for obstacles. Added surface markings inform all users to use caution and be mindful of others crossing their path. In busier areas of the park, it works best to separate bicycle and pedestrian traffic entirely. Here at the plaza, the pedestrian trail continues through the upper plaza, while cyclists diverge onto the river terrace below, separated by a wide landscape buffer. In long, linear segments where space permits, a divider of cobblestone separates pedestrians and cyclists. Here at the park entrance, near the mini railroad, multiple trails converge in a re-envisioned entry node. This area will be a prominent entry point with views open to the river, wayfinding tools, and signage. Secondary paths meander from the main trail so pedestrians can enjoy peace and quiet away from cyclists.
That's Brad Posenjack walking down there. Did you see that?
Near Pybus Public Market, the trail is separated by a row of trees. In this popular area, robust safety features are added to make pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists more aware of each other.
So this was a partnership project between the city and the PUD, and I can't thank the PUD enough for kind of leading the efforts of this. I think it's been a great partnership all the way through. Laura, I don't know if you have more to add.
The only thing on the funding piece of that first phase is about 4.2 million. We've got about 3.6 secured. We've also got the green light for some brownfields funding that the port is helping provide. So slowly adding to those numbers, but that first phase, at least the engineering component to try to get the exact cost is pretty well underway.
So what we're asking for this evening is to approve the Riverfront Park Master Plan, so that way we can incorporate it into our park comprehensive plan, and then that allows us to go after grant funding as well to help with the actual implementation of this.
So Laura, in talks with the PUD, do we have a time frame for when we might attack, say, phase one, assuming that all the money showed up tomorrow?
We just had a meeting with the brownfields consultant last week, or maybe it was this week, and so they were ready to go. The problem is, in order to go out and do a site survey, they have to be able to see the ground.
Okay.
So that's backed up a little bit, but we're starting the process as soon as we can, because that's some of our due diligence for a lot of this infrastructure work that we need done, especially around that large flat area.
Okay.
But we're going to use the brownfields fund to also try to identify any other potential issues at some of these other locations.
Okay.
So I guess my question is moving forward, we've been pretty integral in helping them and partnering with them on this. And is this their parks, and we're assisting them chasing more money down, and how much staff time are we like future committed to this?
So the city owns some of this property, but it is a ground lease with the PUD. They are ultimately responsible. Some of the things that are in the future plans, so for example, the trail component, as you recall, Councilmember Hornby, at one of the stakeholder meetings, the consultant went through all of the different amenities and said, and asked them to rank. The top ranked priority was the entire trail network. So all of the build out of all of the trail components. The PUD mentioned that is something that they will follow through with the relicensing process. And so they do anticipate continuing to move this forward through future phases of available funding and understanding that, yes, this is a PUD park.
Okay.
And I think, and I'll add to that. Yes, it's a PUD park, but obviously we all use it. Whatever improvements got made, they would be maintaining, I think, almost all of them. but we'll partner with them where we can. So we're working with them. They have some capacity issues as well, so we're talking. So we're trying to work our way through it. What I really would like to see is the adoption of phase one, well, adoption tonight, and then I start attacking phase one and trying to get that built in the next, 24 to 36 months is what I'd like to see, because it's nice to see it on a map. It'd be nice to start clicking off some of those. And then the PUD with the relicensing, which is a 6 or 7 year program, they would be ready as part of their FERC license to maybe take on phase two at some point and sort of work our way through it. But it'd be nice to get some of those first amenities done really in the next 24 to 36 months if possible. I don't know how long it takes to design this stuff.
Yeah, I know they talked about using 2023 as kind of that engineering year to get it all refined down so it's ready to build.
That's too slow. Isn't this 2022 right now?
Yeah,
That's next year.
that's next year.
Yeah, let's adopt and, start designing this summer. I don't know why we wouldn't.
Yeah, I
But-
love it. I can't wait.
It's beautiful.
It's,
And, it's badly needed to redo the trails simply because there's a problem down there now with bicyclists and pedestrians, and it's only going to get worse. It's very overused.
this is going to attract more people than what it is now.
Well, and once those new apartments go in down there that are planned, if those are built down there, that's going to bring a whole bunch of new people right to that area. So we're gonna have a
Which
lot
is
of
good.
residents right
That's
there.
just, you know what? That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's what you want to have
More
happen.
restaurants too.
Yep. All right. Any questions for Laura or David? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I move for City Council to approve the Riverfront Park Master Plan and incorporation of the plan into the City Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Comprehensive Plan and related documents.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Harold, second by Councilmember Hornby to approve the Riverfront Park Master Plan and incorporation of the plan of the City Parks, Recreation, Open Space Comprehensive Plan and related documents. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anybody interested in a couple-minute break? Okay, let's take 3.5.
Okay.
Stretch your legs.
Hey, Jessica.
So we are back. So before we get to hear Jessica's little spiel, we have a little bit of entertainment for you on the video screen. If you get a chance to see what Tim brings up. That is your Parks Director, David Erickson, plowing his driveway at home.
Oh, my God.
Well, don't put your hand down there.
It's not spinning, it's safe.
He's looking for something.
Here it comes.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
That was close.
Oh, man.
Impressive.
He just cleared it, huh?
It could be on America's Funniest Home Videos, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I bet he was upset.
They go give up, huh?
Thanks for sharing that with us, David. All right, Jessica, interlocal agreement with the PUD and others regarding second source.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. Jessica Shaw, Deputy Public Works Director for Utilities. And tonight I have before you an interlocal agreement, and this is between the City of Wenatchee, the Port, and the PUD. This is an ongoing process. We've been looking for a second source of water. Preferably, we were looking in south of Wenatchee on the Chelan County side. We've drilled several wells, looked at several different properties, haven't had any luck so far with the groundwater sources. So one of the other alternatives that was on the list that was developed actually almost 8 years ago now was to evaluate the feasibility of a surface water treatment. And so the PUD had applied to the State Department of Commerce and they had received a grant, but we're actually hoping to move a little bit quicker. So the Port has agreed to fund this study. So the Port will be paying for it. That's why they're part of this agreement. The PUD has agreed to take on the work of managing the study. So the city's role is that we are the manager of regional. So we are authorizing the PUD to move forward with this study on our behalf, and we'll be participating in the study and the consultant selection. But we won't have to pay for it. The funding will be paid for. Well, the PUD will be reimbursed by the Port. Be interesting to see what we find, and then hopefully after this, either this becomes a viable alternative or we continue to look at some of the other options, which could be groundwater treatment or continuing to look at groundwater sources in other places besides south of Wenatchee. Are there any questions?
So this is money that somehow legislature was looking to spend something, and I think Steve Wright got in at the very end, and they got $300,000 to study the groundwater, pump out of the Columbia, treat it, and connect it to something. So be interested to see who they hire and what technology is looking at these days. And so is this going to take a couple years, a year?
No, actually, in talking with the PUD, Ron Slaybaugh is managing this project on behalf of the PUD. He has already been talking to a couple different consultants who could be potential candidates for this project. And they think actually it would move fairly quickly, that probably in the next 6 to 9 months, depending on how quickly they can get a request for qualifications out and select a consultant. I think we're looking at an abbreviated process, but mostly we're looking at, there's some great new technology out there that has come about in probably about the last 10 years that makes surface water treatment a much more viable option than what it's been in the past. The city actually used to have surface water treatment, but it was very expensive. There was lots of issues with treating the water, and a lot of those issues have been resolved by current science and technology. So be interesting to see what the consultant provides for options.
Excellent. Any questions for Jessica? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I make a motion for the City Council to authorize the interlocal agreement funding water studies between the Chelan-Douglas Regional Port Authority, City of Wenatchee, and Public Utility District Number 1 of Chelan County, and authorize the mayor's signature.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Hornby, to approve the interlocal agreement funding water studies between the Chelan-Douglas Regional Port Authority, the City of Wenatchee, and the Public Utility District Number 1 of Chelan County, and authorize the mayor's signature on the funding agreement. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jessica. Charlotte. Looks like we're going to close on some property. On Steve.
I'm just here for moral support.
No, he's here to get kudos. He's been working hard on this.
This is a complicated transaction.
No, it's not so complicated. It's practically just very difficult.
Yeah.
So this is for the Saddle Rock project. A portion of the trail goes over right away that is not ours. And so in order to correct that, we would like to purchase this parcel that was owned by Wenatchee Mining Partnership, which has turned out to be something like 20 individual groups or people.
18 to 20.
Yeah, so Steve has been working really hard on this, and through the process of negotiating, found out that there are 2 other parcels they would like to also include in this deal, and the land trust would like those 2 parcels. So we've worked it into this 3-parcel deal, and if you look, so the deal would be $185,000 for all 3 parcels, and then the land trust would turn around and give us $44,000, just over that, for the 2 of the parcels. This is basically a win-win-win. It will fix the problem of us being off of our right-of-way and the public being off of public right-of-way for the trail. It will do a good thing for the land trust in getting them those 2 parcels. And also, we're hoping to use this as part of the conversion process for the RCO for the Castle Rock Park project, where there's a road that is planned to go through that. So we're going to use this as basically the collateral for the RCO grant process. I can answer questions about that if you have them. So this is in our opinion, is a great thing, and Steve has been working really hard through a lot of complicated ownership to sort this out. Any questions?
No, we've talked about this for quite a while, and we did talk about the finance committee today to get Top and Mike up to speed with not only the purchase of the property and then the cleanup that's going on and the fact that it works for conversion to access to the Philippi property for road in the future. So I think they're all up to speed on it, and I think the other council members we've seen this more than once.
Oh, yeah, and it was in last year's budget, but because we thought we were going to close before the end of the year, that didn't happen because it's just so complicated. So we'll just need to roll it forward into this year's budget at some point.
Our first budget amendment, our second one, because I think getting the roads plowed might be our first one, but.
I wanted to add too, that this isn't a totally done deal because the title is very messy. And when we first started this, the first title company we approached looked at it and said, we can't do it, and gave it back. But we did get a title report. It showed about 20 owners, some of which have dissolved, some of which have died, and interests weren't passed on properly. We think we've identified who the correct owners are, but they don't jive with the original title report. So we still have some work to do with the title company to work through that. I think it's possible, but it may not be done on the timeline we've got.
Is it okay to purchase it with some sort of depleted title, knowing at some point in the future something might happen, but at least we have what we think is use?
So Charlotte and I have talked about that. I actually think that would be okay to buy. Let's say we get 90% of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I almost would recommend that we do that. And then just clean up the rest of it.
As those come available, or someone comes out of the woodwork and says, oh, by the way, you didn't pay me.
Well, it actually might be an issue where then we would have to go to court on a quiet title action, because the truth is these interests have just disappeared.
Yeah.
And we can't find, the corporations are gone, people have died, so we may just have to go through a court process to clean it up.
Have the property taxes been paid on it?
Yeah, because there's a core group there's a guy that manages it, so he's taking care of paying the taxes, and he collects the money from all the owners he thinks he has, but it doesn't jive with the record ownership. So it's really.
If you look at some of the names, these folks are no longer.
Yeah, a lot of them are long gone.
Yeah, but I would not wait for a title for 100% clean title. If you can get most of it taken care of and battle the rest of it later, I'm still fine with that, because some of the stuff you may never fix, and we may just have to take a small risk, right?
So the
Yeah,
one.
and I think it would be a small risk, and that would accomplish one of our main goals, which is to be able to finish our remediation project.
Yeah.
Right, it would fix that goal, but it might create a hiccup in the conversion process, because I believe, and Dave can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they require title insurance, a clean title, to use that in the conversion process. So that would be a hiccup.
Right, and that's not a big deal. The bigger deal, I think, is just getting the access to Saddle Rock so we can finish that remediation project. The conversion is gravy on top.
Yeah.
And as we work through that, we still have ways to go on that to even finish that. We have cultural resources and other things that have to be done first, so
Right.
I think
Yeah.
we'd still be fine.
And there's a process where we could clean that up. It would just
Yeah.
take us time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Now you know why the government's buying it, because some private party would never go through this
Never.
process. to
This
make
property's
this.
just locked up.
Well, the
Yeah.
land
Yeah.
trust, I think, tried to purchase it several years ago and gave up because it was just too
Yeah.
complicated.
Yeah, Mickey Fleming, that was the first call I remember. She said, "Can you help us with it?"
Yeah.
And then she just delivered this mess of paper and said, "We can't, this is it for us. We can't do it."
Yeah.
So,
Well, good. Well, good for us for helping the land trust, and it sounds like a win-win-win, except for Steve Smith's legal fees. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Any questions for Steve or Charlotte? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Yeah, I motion for city council to authorize the mayor to sign a real estate purchase and sale agreement, including one addendum with Wenatchee Mining Partners.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rojan, second by Councilmember Poyer, to authorize the mayor to sign a real estate purchase and sale agreement, including addendums with Wenatchee Mining Partners. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Thanks for staying so late, Charlotte.
Thank you so much.
All right, council members, you get to appoint a mayor pro tem for the 2022 year. So the mayor pro tem is the one who's the mayor when I'm not in town. And I do have a couple of trips planned this year and may miss a meeting or two. And then is required to sign documents that sometimes come across when I'm not around. So I don't know how you guys, it's sort of been turnsies for a long time, so I don't know how you all want to do it, but I get to sit back and watch this.
I'll defer to Councilmember Harold.
About what?
On Mayor Pro Tem, because I'm done,
Yeah.
and it would, if we followed turnsies, it would either be Councilmember Huffaker or you, although I think you had some other ideas about.
I thought maybe Jose should do it.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Why not?
Not yet. Too much
But I
responsibility
don't know
right
what
now.
his time commitments are.
No, it's
so.
too much responsibility. I was gonna elect either Keith or Linda. You guys are the senior experts at this moment.
And, Mike can do it too. He's been here 4 years, just took 2 years off. And Jose's been here for a couple.
Travis?
Travis has been here long enough.
Okay. Travis?
Sure. Your Honor, I make a motion that Councilmember Hornby be appointed Mayor Pro Tem for the 2022 year.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Kulas, second by Councilmember Poyer to appoint Travis Hornby as the mayor pro tem for the 2022 year. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you, Travis.
I should have found his vacation days first.
All right, mayor's report. I've got just a couple of things on my agenda, and Laura will help with some of this. First of all, just thanks to the council for giving staff and myself a little 5-week break. It's always appreciated during Christmas that we don't meet, and so I do want to thank the 6 of you in the room for allowing us a break there and then having to go a little bit long today. We have done our social justice awards. The mayor's been sort of picking them since the Diversity Council has sort of gone away. So our business or organization is Pinnacles Prep, and our individual is Elvis Garcia. So they will be getting some awards from us in the next little bit. I don't know whether the Martin Luther King event is happening on Saturday or not. If it is, it's a very pared back event. Laura, do you?
No, it's not. So the museum is going to do a variety of different events throughout the entire month to workshops, classes, smaller events. And so that was one of the reasons just from COVID protocols that we decided to do these on-site ones. So we'll meet Elvis Garcia at the Yogi Grind, which is the business that he owns, and then we'll meet Pinnacles Prep at the school to celebrate each of them.
Anything else? I did meet with Kirk Hudson, the new general manager of the PUD last Friday, so we had a lot of good things to talk about and very excited for him getting involved and taking over the leadership. And so I know Laura is working closely with Michelle and others at the PUD regarding our environmental work on Confluence Parkway. Sounds to me like there's a preliminary meeting scheduled for the first week in February for us to present to the PUD commissioners who have to get a letter of concurrence. And so we'll be meeting with them. We may ask for some of the council members to show up for that, depending on how we feel like that meeting may be going. But we need to get some of this environmental stuff sort of off the dime a little bit. So Top told me he went to community actions meeting.
Yes.
Yesterday?
It was a virtual meeting.
Oh, virtual meeting. You didn't go. Okay. And then you've attended transportation
Yeah, I went
today?
to the transportation, and we're discussing, like, some of the smaller cities don't have the input, and for right now, just at least come to the table so we can listen to their projects. It doesn't mean there's voting yet, but that is a discussion that's going on. Also, there's a rumor of like some additional funding from the state that's coming up, and what's really cool in my mind, Confluence Parkway is continuing to be the #1 for the 85 million. So that's staying on top of the list with them.
Yeah. That's good. It took us a long time to get it at the top of the list, and we've got half of it funded, so we need to leave it on the top of the list until we get it all funded. We're watching a number of things, both in Washington, D.C. and Olympia, regarding transportation and maybe grants that might be available to help get us to the finish line. So we did meet with Richard Durock earlier in the week, and so we're still trying to come up with the second chunk of money to get the bridge built. Did you sit through Rivercom?
Yeah, we both sat through Rivercom.
Okay.
They have a new executive director who has a game plan, a strategic plan to have better communication and run the facility better and more openness and community-minded focused agenda, which I appreciated. Mike, you have anything else to add to that?
No, it's presented, sound like, first one I were on to, and it seems like they're trying to restructure, yes, and have confidence in the new executive director and go from there.
Good.
I have one more update, Mayor.
Yes.
With the health district, it looks like the state is retooling who sits on the board. So I don't know. It looks like a big and little, two biggest cities. There's a city representatives. The largest city gets to, and then the smallest city.
Okay.
In the two counties. Looks like this year it may be East Wenatchee.
Okay.
Would be the big city, and
Okay.
then we would not be on the health district this current year.
Okay.
I think is how it's planning out. I haven't got the final say on that. They were learning about it because the rules and regulations just came down.
Okay.
But there's might be some changes on our representation from the city on the health district.
Okay. Be interested to see how that all comes out. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
I will meet tomorrow with Commissioner Obleray.
Okay.
We're going to be talking plans about intersection South Mission Street and Terminal Avenue.
Okay.
See what we can do for our students and pedestrians going through there.
Okay. And that's in the county?
That's a county,
Yeah.
so we're kind of borderline with my district, so
Yeah.
that's where we're going to work
Good.
together.
Good for you. Awesome. All right. Nothing else for the good of the order?
One more.
Yes?
One more. Did you want to continue on the Chelan Douglas Homeless Task Force, or do you want me to do it?
Well, good point. How are you going to?
I'm doing the Thunder
Because
River
they put me
Task
as
Force.
alternate.
Huh?
They put me as an alternate,
Yeah.
but then we're not doing the county anymore, so how are we putting a city council?
Well, we're not voting members. We are just, members there to, we can express our opinions and stuff. We just
Because
can't vote.
I can do it if we need to,
If you want to.
for the county.
It's up to you.
If we need to, I'll do it.
So you guys figure it out, and if you
Okay.
change from Linda to Jose, then just tell Tammy, and we'll readopt it as a consent item next meeting. Okay.
All right.
So you guys arm wrestle over it, let Tammy know who
It
wins,
doesn't matter.
and if it
Yeah.
changes, we'll bring it
Yeah.
back for a consent item.
Okay.
All right, anything else for the good of the order? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.